Short while ago, Eskom announced that Stage 6 load shedding would continue to be implemented from Friday at 5 a.m. throughout the weekend. And of course, it raises concerns yet again of continuous higher stages of load shedding, and the cold winter, of course, putting additional pressure on the grid. Matthew Cruz is an energy expert at Home Energy. Matthew, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. So we came into this week with a very confident electricity minister saying that we would be able to sort of overcome the worst of the cold spell without necessarily having to even think about stage 8. Do you think that that's very much still the case?
Hello, and thank you for having me on the show. And yeah, it's unfortunate that that is not the case. And I kind of picked it up when the electricity minister said that we've plateaued now at a generating capacity of 29,000 megawatts. And two aspects about that. The one is that 29,000 megawatts is 4,000 megawatts less than last year's demand in winter. And so it can be expected that the demand would pick up like it has. And then also plateauing at 29,000 megawatts is a bit not accurate, because what actually happened is a whole bunch of maintenance units that were being on maintenance came back from maintenance at one time, and then our generation peaked at 29,000 megawatts. And predictably, following that, we had generating units closing down and shutting down because of issues and faults that are happening at the units, which happened at Grootfontein, Hendrina, at Lataba, and Tuka, and 2 units at Arnott, following now that this week. And those units going down have led us to having stage 6 over the weekend. So this is now a terrible place to be in, and also it gives us a bad forecast for this rest of the winter, where we can see maybe stage 8 coming in August, unfortunately.
Stage 8, at this point, anything that can be done to avoid it, Matthew? Because the last time, of course, this country was worried about not only stage 8, but the threat of a complete collapse of the grid. It seems, the officials were able to avoid that.
Yes, so fortunately, regarding the collapse of the grid, I do not see that as a high risk. I see that as a less than 2% chance of actually happening, because we use load shedding in order to mitigate the risk of a grid collapse. So only when you've got a really big imbalance between the demand and the generation will you have a grid collapse. And we use load shedding up to stage 16, as now has recently announced, to mitigate a blackout. So I do not see a blackout happening, but I do see load shedding escalating going forward, and some things that we can do to prevent that is use electricity, obviously, from our side as homeowners, and also Eskom from their side. They could do things like firing the diesel generators and using their reserve capacity that they have of 2,000 megawatts more wisely to mitigate down from stage 6 down to stage 4 during the weekend. But, it's a bit of a game of like, how much money do you spend on the diesel, and do you spend all the money on the diesel that you have for the year within the next 3 months just to make sure that we don't hit stage 8? That's the game that Eskom's playing at the moment.
In terms of what we as residents then need to be doing, what should we sort of be preparing and readying ourselves for? I think, again, especially because, it's been a couple of months since we last had stage 6, and I think many South Africans have forgotten just how severe, the stage of load shedding is.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that it's severe now, and we'd actually, here at Home Energy, our projections are that there's going to be a doubling of the load shedding going forward over the next 5 years. So it's not something that's going to go away anytime soon. It's actually going to get worse, unfortunately. So we highly advise everyone listening and all the readers and watchers of the show to get solar if they can, and solar generation for their home or business, which can be financed. And there's an aspect of that people don't really understand, where your monthly budgets won't really change that much, because you can finance solar and then save money on your electricity bill, and the finances balance out. So there's actually no impact on your financial budget. So for those who can't get solar, I highly recommend getting lots of warm clothing, and also cooking alternatives using a small gas stove like I do at home. I rent my place, so I'm not a candidate for getting solar myself, unfortunately. And then also just staying warm using alternative methods than electricity during winter, because unfortunately we won't have much electricity to go around for us during the rest of winter.
All right, Matthew Cruz, energy expert with Home Energy. We'll have to wait and see what that, now notorious briefing by the electricity minister held every Sunday afternoon, what that is going to bring us this coming weekend, with stage 6 load shedding expected to last with us at least for the next couple of days.